There is a profound peace found only in the heart of a storm. When the world outside turns chaotic and wild, the space within becomes a sanctuary. Tonight, we will not run from the thunder. We will listen to its ancient story. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the rhythm of the falling rain wash away the worries of the day. You are safe, you are warm, and the storm is simply a lullaby written by nature just for you.
There is a particular kind of silence that exists only at the edge of the world, where the land meets the restless sea. And tonight, we find ourselves standing upon such a precipice on the rugged coast of 19th century America, where the Atlantic Ocean stretches out into the infinite darkness. High above the crashing waves stands a solitary sentinel, a lighthouse built of sturdy granite blocks that have withstood the turning of seasons and the passing of decades, rising from the bedrock like a natural extension of the earth itself. The year is 1890, and the world moves at a slower rhythm, a pace dictated not by clocks or engines, but by the rising of the sun and the turning of the tides. Here in this stone tower, the air is thick with the scent of salt and ancient rock, mingled with the warm, comforting aroma of kerosene oil that burns steadily within the lantern room. You are the watcher in the tower, the keeper of the light, and yours is a life of quiet purpose and profound peace. Outside, the wind begins to whisper the first secrets of a gathering storm, moving across the water with a heavy, slate-gray majesty. But inside, you are enveloped in a sanctuary of warmth and safety. To be a lighthouse keeper is to understand the language of the storm, not as something to fear, but as a grand performance of nature that you are privileged to witness from the safest seat in the house. You walk slowly up the spiral iron staircase, your boots making a soft, rhythmic clanking sound against the metal steps, a sound that echoes gently in the stairwell like the heartbeat of the tower itself. With every step you climb, you leave the heavy terrestrial world behind, rising higher into the domain of the birds and the clouds, until you reach the lantern room at the very summit. This room is a marvel of glass and brass, a crystal crown atop the stone pillar where the great Fresnel lens sits like a giant diamond waiting to catch the fire. The glass of the lantern room is thick and distorted by age, protecting you completely from the elements, while offering you a panoramic view of the horizon, where the sky is currently bruising with deep shades of indigo and charcoal. The storm is coming from the east, rolling in off the open ocean, and you can see the whitecaps on the waves beginning to dance with more fervor. Yet here, behind the glass, there is only stillness. You take a match from a small wooden box, the sound of the strike distinct and sharp in the quiet room, and you touch the flame to the oil lamp's wick, watching as the golden light blooms into existence, pushing back the shadows. The light is magnified by the prisms of the lens, fracturing into a powerful beam that cuts through the gathering gloom, a silent promise to any ship at sea that the land is here and that someone is watching. As the sun dips below the western horizon behind you, the world transitions into a monochromatic dream of grays and blacks, but your world is bathed in the amber glow of the lamp. You settle into the worn wooden chair in the corner of the room, a chair that has shaped itself to the keepers before you, and you pick up a leather-bound book, though your eyes are drawn more often to the theater of the weather outside. The first drops of rain begin to fall, tapping against the thick glass panes with a tentative, gentle rhythm, like fingers drumming on a tabletop, and this sound is the opening note of the storm's symphony. It is a cozy sound, a sound that emphasizes the dryness and the warmth of your position, for there is no feeling quite as satisfying as being perfectly dry while watching the rain fall just inches away. The wind picks up its pace, singing a low, mournful song as it wraps around the cylindrical tower, but the stone walls are feet thick and immovable, and the structure does not sway. It only hums with a deep resonance that feels grounding and secure. You pour yourself a cup of hot coffee from the pot, kept warm on the small cast-iron stove below, and the steam rises in curling ribbons, mingling with the smell of the polishing brass and the sea air. Holding the warm ceramic cup in your hands, you look out into the abyss where the storm is now fully forming. The clouds are low and heavy, rushing past the glass like silent ghosts, and occasionally a flash of lightning illuminates the churning ocean below, turning the black water into a momentary sheet of silver. The thunder that follows is not a sharp crack, but a rolling bass rumble that vibrates through the floorboards, a sound that feels less like a threat and more like the earth clearing its throat. You are completely alone here, but you do not feel lonely. Instead, you feel a profound connection to the elements and a deep sense of solitude that is restorative and rich. In the city, far away, there is noise and confusion and the rush of industry. But here, in the tower, there is only the elemental truth of wind and water and stone. You watch the beam of light rotate, a steady, rhythmic pulse that sweeps across the darkness every few seconds, a metronome of light that regulates the night. 1, 2, 3, flash. 1, 2, 3, flash. The rhythm is hypnotic, lulling your mind into a state of trance where thoughts slow down and worries dissolve into the ether. The rain intensifies, turning from a tap to a steady drum roll against the lantern room glass, washing the windows in rivulets of water that distort the beam into fractured stars. It is a beautiful sight, a kaleidoscope of light and water playing out just for you. You are the guardian of the coast, but tonight, the tower is also your guardian, holding you in its stony embrace, protecting you from the wind and the wet. You think of the sailors out on the water, perhaps seeing your light and feeling a surge of hope, and you think of the families in the cottages down the coast, tucking themselves into bed under heavy quilts, listening to the same rain on their roofs. We are all connected by the storm, huddled in our respective shelters, finding comfort in the contrast between the wildness outside and the calmness within. The oil lamp hums a low, steady note, a companionable sound that blends with the wind. You stand up and walk around the lens, checking the mechanism, polishing a smudge from the brass with a soft cloth, your movements slow and deliberate. There is no rush here, nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do, but keep the light burning and the darkness at bay. The storm outside is a chaotic swirl of energy, but it cannot breach your fortress. It can only decorate your windows with rain and sing to you through the glass. You feel a heaviness in your eyelids, a pleasant weight that comes from a day of honest work and the soporific sound of the falling rain. The ocean below is roaring, crashing against the jagged rocks with a power that shakes the ground. But up here, you are floated above it all, detached and safe, observing the raw power of nature with a calm reverence. The lightning flashes again, further away now, as the heart of the storm begins to drift northward, leaving behind a steady, soaking rain that feels cleansing and pure. You sit back down in your chair, wrapping a wool blanket around your legs, feeling the heat from the stove radiating up through the floorboards. The world is dark and wet and wild, but you are a warm point of light in the center of it all. The rotation of the lens casts moving shadows around the room, a gentle spinning carousel of light and dark that makes the eyelids grow even heavier. You are the watcher in the tower, and your watch is a peaceful one, filled with the beauty of the storm and the comfort of the shelter. The smell of the rain permeates the air now,
crisp and clean, mixing with the oil and the old wood of the tower's interior. It is a scent of history, of all the storms that have broken against this coast and all the keepers who have sat in this very chair, watching them pass. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the cool air, and as you exhale, you let go of any tension holding onto your shoulders. The storm is your lullaby, the ocean is your cradle, and the tower is your castle. The sound of the wind softens slightly, shifting from a howl to a whisper as the storm settles into a steady rhythm of endurance. You watch the droplets of water race each other down the glass, tracing paths of light in the darkness. Every drop is a note in the song, every gust of wind a verse in the story of the night. You are safe, you are warm, and you are exactly where you are meant to be, suspended between the earth and the sky, in a room of glass and light. The night stretches out before you, long and quiet, and filled with the promise of rest. The beam sweeps around again, a faithful friend, cutting through the rain, and you close your eyes for a moment, listening to the muffled roar of the surf below. It is the heartbeat of the planet, deep and slow and eternal. In this tower, time stands still, and the only thing that matters is the light and the storm and the peace that exists between them. You are the watcher, and tonight you watch over a world that is being washed clean by the rain, ready to emerge fresh and new when the dawn eventually comes. But for now, there is only the night, the storm, and the comforting embrace of the tower.
As the beam of the lighthouse fades from our mind's eye, we allow the currents of time to pull us backward, drifting away from the structures of iron and glass and stone to a time when the continent was young and wild, and the sky was the only ceiling the world had ever known. We travel back centuries before the hum of electricity or the rumble of engines to an era where silence was the natural state of the earth, a silence so profound that the approach of a storm was an event of monumental importance, felt by every living creature in the vast, untouched wilderness of early America. Imagine standing in a meadow of tall grass that stretches endlessly toward the horizon in every direction, the green blades swaying in a breeze that carries the scent of pine resin and damp earth, a scent that tells you the weather is turning. In this ancient world, the sky was the first cinema, the original canvas upon which the universe painted its most dramatic stories, and humanity did not hide from the clouds, but watched them with a sense of deep reverence and wonder. To the people who walked this land long before maps were drawn, the storm was not merely a meteorological event, but a conversation between the earth and the heavens, a dialogue spoken in the language of thunder and lightning. They called them the thunder beings, great and powerful spirits who rode across the sky on wings made of dark clouds, bringing with them the life-giving waters that would nourish the maize and the forests. There was no fear in this observation, only a humble respect for the raw power being displayed above, for the storm was seen as a necessary cleansing, a washing away of the old to make way for the new. Imagine lying back in the soft grass, your eyes traced upward to the vast dome of the heavens, watching the great cumulus towers building in the west, rising like mountains of white cotton that slowly transform into bruised shades of indigo and violet and charcoal gray. This was the entertainment of the ancient world, a slow-moving spectacle of light and shadow that required patience to appreciate. You can see the edges of the clouds gilded with sunlight, while their bellies grow dark and heavy with rain, and there is a stillness that settles over the land, a hushed anticipation, where even the birds cease their singing and the crickets pause their chirping, waiting for the first act to begin.
The air grows heavy and charged with electricity, a static hum that raises the hair on your arms, and you can feel the vibration of the approaching thunder in the soles of your feet long before you hear the sound with your ears. It is a deep, rhythmic percussion, the heartbeat of the sky, rolling across the plains and echoing off the canyon walls, a sound that connects you to every generation that has ever stood and listened to the rain. In this time, there were no weather forecasts, no radar screens to predict the future. There was only the instinctual reading of the signs, the way the leaves on the maple trees turned their undersides to the wind, or the way the swallows flew low to the ground. To watch a storm in this ancient context is to realize how small we are and how grand the world is, a realization that brings a strange sense of comfort and relief, for it lifts the burden of control from our shoulders, reminding us that there are forces far greater than ourselves at work. As the first drops of rain begin to fall, they're large and warm, splashing against the dry earth and releasing that distinct perfume of petrichor, the smell of dust turning into mud, the smell of survival. You seek shelter not in a brick house, but perhaps under a rocky overhang or inside a lodge made of cedar and hide, where the barrier between you and the storm is thin enough to let the experience in, but strong enough to keep the cold out. Listening to the rain fall on a stretched hide roof creates a drumming sound that is primal and hypnotic, a rhythm that mimics the beating of the human heart and syncs your breathing with the cadence of the falling water. The fire in the center of the lodge crackles and pops, casting dancing shadows against the walls, and the warmth of the flames contrasts beautifully with the cool, damp air drifting in from the entrance. This is the definition of ancient comfort, the feeling of being protected by the earth while the sky performs its wild dance outside. You imagine the early settlers and the indigenous families gathered together during such a storm, telling stories in the flickering light, their voices weaving tales of heroes and spirits, while the thunder punctuated their sentences like a celestial drum. The lightning that flashes across the sky was seen not as a threat, but as the blinking of a great eye or the spark of creation itself, illuminating the landscape in brief, stuttering moments of absolute clarity, where every tree and every blade of grass stands out in sharp relief against the darkness. There is a purity to this darkness, a night sky untouched by artificial light, where the storm clouds blot out the stars and envelop the world in a velvet embrace. The rain intensifies, becoming a curtain of water that sweeps across the valley, a gray veil that softens the edges of the world and blurs the horizon into a mist. It is a time for resting, for when the thunder beings speak, there is no work to be done in the fields, no hunting to be had in the woods. There is only the waiting and the listening. The storm enforces a pause, a mandatory period of stillness where you are granted permission to do nothing but simply be. You listen to the water dripping from the leaves of the great oak trees outside, the steady, rhythmic plop, plop, plop that marks the passage of time better than any clock.
The streams begin to swell. The rivers rise, and the earth drinks its fill, absorbing the gift of the sky with a thirsty gratitude. In the ancient mindset, the rain is always a blessing, a renewal of the covenant between the sky and the soil, ensuring that life will continue, that the berries will grow, and the herds will have water. You feel this gratitude welling up inside you, a deep appreciation for the cycle of nature that has continued uninterrupted for millions of years. The storm you hear tonight is the same storm that watered the ferns of the Jurassic, the same rain that fell on the Pilgrims, the same thunder that echoed for the pioneers. It is a timeless sound, a continuous thread that weaves through history, connecting us to the ancient watchers who stood in this same spot and looked up with the same sense of wonder. The thunder rolls away into the distance, becoming a low mutter on the horizon as the worst of the storm passes, leaving behind a gentle, steady rain that feels like a benediction. The air is scrubbed clean of dust and pollen, leaving it cool and crisp and sweet to the taste. You wrap a fur blanket around your shoulders, feeling the rough texture of the natural world, and you stare into the embers of the dying fire, letting your mind drift along with the receding clouds. The ancient sky has whispered its secrets to you, telling you that you are part of this great unfolding story, that you are safe within the cycle of the seasons. The fear dissolves into a deep relaxation, a heavy peacefulness that settles into your bones like the warmth of the fire. You are no longer separate from the storm. You are a witness to its glory, a participant in its rhythm. The heavy lids of your eyes begin to close as the sound of the rain becomes a constant, soothing white noise, a natural lullaby that has put humanity to sleep for eons. There is no urgency here in the ancient past, only the slow turning of the wheel, the coming and going of the clouds, and the eternal comfort of a dry place to rest your head. The whispers of the sky grow softer now, fading into the gentle hum of the night as the earth breathes out a sigh of relief. You drift deeper into the darkness, guided by the fading echoes of the thunder, feeling the protection of the ancestors who watched the same sky and found peace in the heart of the storm. The world is vast and old and wise, and it is holding you gently through the night, watching over you as you sleep under the canopy of the ancient clouds.
We leave the solid ground behind now and cast off the lines that tether us to the earth, drifting out into the vast and rhythmic embrace of the open ocean, where the horizon is a perfect circle of water meeting sky. The year is 1750, and we are aboard a great three-masted sailing ship, a vessel crafted from the heart of mighty oak trees, shaped by human hands to dance with the wind and the waves. To step aboard this ship is to enter a world that is alive, for the wood never truly forgets the forest, and it speaks in a language of creaks and groans that becomes the constant soundtrack of your life at sea. There is a deep and resonant comfort in the sound of the ship shifting as it rides the swell, a rhythmic creaking of timber against timber that sounds like the slow, heavy breathing of a sleeping giant. You are a mariner, a traveler of the blue wilderness, and your guide is not a digital screen or a printed map, but the ever-changing canvas of the clouds above. The sky is your barometer, your clock, and your storyteller, and you have learned to read its subtle shifts with the same fluency that a scholar reads a book. As the afternoon sun begins to dip toward the western edge of the world, you stand on the quarterdeck, feeling the gentle pitch and roll of the deck beneath your boots, a motion that is as familiar to you as walking. You look up to read the signs, for the clouds are writing a message in the upper atmosphere. High above, wisps of cirrus clouds curl like the tails of white horses, famously known as mare's tails, sweeping across the azure expanse in delicate strokes that whisper of a change in the wind. The old rhymes drift through your mind, the wisdom passed down from captain to deckhand for generations. Red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky at morning, sailors take warning. Tonight, the sun sets behind a bank of low gray clouds, painting them in bruised shades of purple and crimson, a beautiful but ominous signal that the air pressure is falling and the weather is turning. You watch the seagulls, those white-winged messengers of the coast, as they fly lower to the water, their cries silenced as they seek the shelter of the waves, sensing the drop in pressure long before the first drop of rain falls. There is no fear on this ship, only a quiet, respectful preparation, for the crew knows the sea, and they trust the sturdy hull that holds them. The command is given to shorten the sails, and the men move with a practiced, fluid efficiency, hauling on the rough hemp ropes, their movements synchronized with the roll of the ship. The great canvas sails are furled tight against the yards, tucked away like birds folding their wings, and the ship slows its pace, settling deeper into the water, ready to ride out the coming weather.
The wind begins to sing in the rigging, a low whistling tune that vibrates through the masts and down into the very keel of the ship. But down below deck, a different world awaits, a world of warmth and camaraderie that feels like a burrow hidden away from the elements. You descend the steep wooden ladder into the belly of the ship, leaving the fresh salt air for the cozy enclosed atmosphere of the lower decks. Here, the air smells of tar and oakum, of dried tea leaves and old wool, a rich, savory scent that speaks of travel and history. The ceiling is low, supported by heavy wooden beams that are dark with age and polished by the touch of 1,000 hands. Lanterns hang from hooks on the beams, swinging gently in unison with the rocking of the ship, casting swaying shadows that dance across the wooden bulkheads. The light is soft and amber, creating a sense of intimacy and enclosure that makes the vast ocean outside feel 1,000,000 miles away. You join your shipmates, sitting on sea chests or reclining in canvas hammocks that are strung up like cocoons. There is a sense of shared safety here, a brotherhood forged by the ocean, where every man looks out for the other. The conversation is low and murmuring, barely rising above the sounds of the ship. Stories are told of distant ports and strange lands, but mostly there is just the comfortable silence of men who are content to rest. Above your head, you hear the first raindrops strike the deck planks. At first, it is a scattered tapping, distinct and sharp against the hard wood. Tap, tap, tap. But soon it swells into a steady drumming, a continuous wash of sound that seals you inside. The deck above acts as a roof, a sturdy shield that separates the wet and the wind from the dry and the warm. Listening to the rain on the deck of a ship is a unique experience, for the sound is immediate and textured. You can hear the water pooling and running toward the scuppers. You can hear the wind buffeting the hull, but it all feels distant, muffled by the thick oak planks. The ship is a cradle, rocking you back and forth in a motion that is older than humanity itself, the same motion that rocks a child to sleep. You climb into your hammock, feeling the canvas wrap around you, hugging your shoulders and supporting your back. The suspension of the hammock isolates you from the movement of the ship, so while the vessel rolls beneath you, you remain relatively still, floating in the air, a sensation of weightlessness that is incredibly conducive to sleep. You close your eyes and let your other senses take over. You hear the water rushing past the hull on the other side of the wood, a swooshing, rushing sound that is white noise in its purest form. It reminds you that you are moving, that you are on a journey, even while you sleep. The creaking of the ship continues a rhythmic lullaby that says, "I am strong, I am holding you, I am safe." Creak and settle, creak and settle. It is the sound of the wood working, breathing, flexing with the sea, but never breaking. The storm outside is not a monster. It is simply the ocean changing its mood, a necessary release of energy that you are safely insulated from. The lantern light dims as the wick burns low, casting the room into a soft twilight that signals the end of the watch. You feel the warmth of the wool blanket you have pulled up to your chin, the scratchy texture contrasting with the smoothness of the hammock. Around you, the breathing of the crew deepens, joining the rhythm of the waves. There is something profoundly comforting about being on a ship during a storm, knowing that you have done everything you need to do.
The sails are furled, the hatches are battened down, and now there is nothing left to do but surrender to the rock and the roll. The mariner's guide to the clouds has told you that this storm will pass by morning, that the sun will rise on a clean-washed ocean. But for now, the night belongs to the rain. The tapping on the deck above becomes a steady drone, a curtain of sound that shuts out the world. You visualize the ship as a tiny speck of warmth in the vast, cool Atlantic, a floating home that carries its own climate, its own light, its own peace. The smell of the rain mingles with the salt air, drifting down the companionway, a fresh, clean scent that clears the mind. You let your thoughts drift like the clouds, dissolving into shapes and then fading away. The anxiety of the land, the schedules and the demands are gone. Here there is only the watch and the rest, the sea and the ship. The wooden beams above you are solid and reassuring. They have weathered 100 storms before this one, and they will weather 100 more. You trust the ship as you would a friend. The camaraderie of the crew provides a silent psychological warmth, knowing you are not alone in the dark. The motion of the waves becomes a hypnotic swing, pushing you gently toward the shores of sleep. Left and right, up and down, a gentle, chaotic dance that relaxes every muscle in your body. The mariner's guide to the clouds is closed now. The reading is done, and the story is simply the sound of the rain and the sea. You drift deeper into the warmth of the hammock, letting the creaking wood sing you to sleep, feeling the profound satisfaction of the sailor who is dry and safe while the wind blows. The ocean is vast, but your world is small and cozy and secure. The rain continues its drumming, the ship continues its rocking, and you float into the peaceful harbor of dreams, guided by the rhythm of the ancient sea. The pages of history turn backward now, settling softly upon the cobblestone streets of Philadelphia in the warm and humid summer of 1752, where the air is thick with the promise of change, and the spirit of the American Enlightenment is beginning to bloom like a flower in the New World. We find ourselves in a city of red brick and white sashes, a place where the rhythm of life is dictated by the clattering of horse hooves on stone and the ringing of church bells that mark the passing hours. It is an afternoon of heavy stillness, the kind of day where the heat hangs suspended in the air, and the sky above the Delaware River begins to darken with the bruising colors of a summer storm. But inside the study of a modest house on Market Street, there is a calm and studious atmosphere, a sanctuary of knowledge, filled with the comforting scent of old leather bindings, beeswax candles, and ink. Here sits Benjamin Franklin, a man whose mind is as expansive as the sky itself, tinkering with the tools of his curiosity, surrounded by Leyden jars and glass tubes and stacks of parchment. To him, the storm gathering outside is not a source of fear or an omen of doom, but a magnificent puzzle waiting to be solved, a locked door for which he is crafting the key. The room is dim and cozy, the shutters drawn halfway against the heat, creating a twilight atmosphere that invites focus and quiet contemplation. You can hear the distant rumble of thunder rolling over the rooftops of Philadelphia, a sound that shakes the window panes gently in their frames, like a friendly greeting from the heavens. Franklin moves with a deliberate, slow pace, gathering his materials for an experiment that will change the way humanity sees the night. He picks up a kite, but it is not a toy for a child. It is a scientific instrument, crafted from a large silk handkerchief, which will withstand the wind and the wet far better than paper. The cross is made of cedar wood, light and fragrant, and at the top he fixes a sharp pointed wire intended to draw the electric fire from the clouds. There is a tactile pleasure in the preparation, the feeling of the rough hemp twine between his fingers, the smoothness of the silk, the cool weight of the iron key that he slips into his pocket. As the sky turns a deep charcoal gray and the wind begins to whip the leaves of the trees into a frenzy, Franklin steps out, not into the danger, but into the shelter of a small wooden shed in a nearby pasture, accompanied by his son. They stand just inside the doorway, protected from the rain that has begun to fall in heavy, warm sheets, creating a curtain of water that separates them from the world. The smell of the rain hitting the hot, dry dust of the street is intoxicating, the scent of petrichor rising up to meet the ozone of the storm. The kite is released, catching the updraft, rising higher and higher into the turbulent air, a pale diamond dancing against the dark backdrop of the thunderheads. You watch the kite climb, the string unspooling with a steady, rhythmic zipping sound, disappearing into the mist, while Franklin stands safely in the dry shadow of the shed, holding the end of the twine to which he has tied a silk ribbon to keep his hand dry and insulated. The storm is overhead, now a magnificent display of nature's power, with lightning forking across the sky and brilliant, jagged veins of white and gold, illuminating the city in flashes of daylight. The thunder is loud, a cracking boom that resonates in your chest. But here in the shelter, with the smell of hay and old wood, there's a feeling of grounding. The experiment is a waiting game, a lesson in patience. You watch the hemp string closely, your eyes following the rough fibers. As the rain soaks the line, it becomes conductive, turning the twine into a wire that connects the earth to the clouds. Suddenly, the loose filaments of the hemp string stand up, erect and trembling, charged with the silent, invisible fluid of the sky. It is a moment of pure magic, a whisper of the universe revealing its secrets. Franklin brings his knuckle close to the iron key he has tied to the string, and with a soft, audible snap, a spark jumps from the metal to his hand. It is not a violent shock, but a gentle kiss of electricity, a confirmation that the lightning in the sky and the spark in the laboratory are one and the same. In this moment, the mystery of the storm dissolves, replaced by the wonder of physics. The monster in the clouds is tamed, reduced to a force of nature that can be understood, that can be guided, that can be lived with. The fear vanishes, leaving only a deep sense of awe and a cozy feeling of safety that comes from knowledge. The rain continues to pour, drumming heavily on the roof of the shed, a sound that encloses you in a bubble of isolation. The kite flies on, a tether to the heavens, while you remain grounded and dry, holding the string that connects the two worlds. As the storm begins to drift eastward, crossing the river into New Jersey, the tension in the air dissipates, leaving a fresh, cool breeze that sweeps through the city. Franklin winds in the kite, the wet silk clinging to the frame. The experiment a success, the theory proven. You walk back with him through the wet, gleaming streets, the cobblestones shining like polished onyx in the fading light of the day. Returning to the warm, dry study feels like a homecoming. The lamps are lit, casting a golden glow over the books and the instruments, and the world feels more manageable, more comfortable. You settle into a high-backed wing chair, the fabric soft against your skin, listening to the last of the rain tapping against the glass.
The discovery has transformed the storm from a chaotic threat into a marvelous system of energy, a symphony of electrons playing out in the atmosphere. You feel a profound sense of peace, knowing that the house you are in, the lightning rod on the roof, the very understanding of the weather are all shields that protect you. The scratching of a quill on parchment is the only sound in the room now, a rhythmic scratching that mimics the patter of the rain.
Benjamin Franklin is writing down his findings, capturing the lightning in ink. But you are simply resting, letting the story of the day settle into your mind. The air in the room is cooler now, the humidity broken by the storm, and the temperature is perfect for sleep. You look at the iron key sitting on the desk, silent and cold, a simple object that unlocked the sky. The storm has passed, leaving behind a silence that is deep and resonant, a silence filled with the comfort of the American Enlightenment, where reason and curiosity are the blankets that keep us warm. The shadows in the room lengthen, and the candlelight flickers gently, hypnotic and soothing. You feel your breathing slow down, matching the fading rhythm of the distant thunder. The world of 1752 is a quiet place, a world without the hum of modern life, where the night is truly dark and the sleep is truly deep. You are safe in the study, safe in history, safe in the knowledge that the storm is just a passing conversation between the earth and the sky. The heavy leather books on the shelves stand guard like silent sentinels, protecting the wisdom within. Your eyes grow heavy, the weight of the day lifting from your shoulders as you drift into the calm aftermath of the discovery. The rain has stopped completely now, leaving only the dripping of the eaves, a slow, melodic drop, drop, drop that counts you down into slumber. The electric key has turned the lock on the day and opened the door to dreams. You are drifting, floating on the current of time, held securely in the cozy embrace of the past, where the lightning is just a spark and the thunder is just a song, and you are fast asleep. We leave the cobbled streets of the eastern cities behind and travel westward now, following the path of the setting sun until the trees thin out and the world opens up into the vast and breathtaking expanse of the American Great Plains. We find ourselves in the middle of the 19th century on the open prairie of Kansas or perhaps Nebraska, where the horizon stretches out in an unbroken circle of green and gold, a landscape so immense that it feels like an ocean of grass frozen in time. Here, the sky is not just a ceiling, but the dominant feature of existence, a colossal dome of blue that dwarfs the tiny human settlements scattered like islands in the sea of swaying bluestem and switchgrass. You are standing outside a sturdy log cabin built from heavy timber and chinked with clay, a homestead that sits rooted deeply in the earth, a solitary fortress of comfort in the wild expanses. The air is hot and dry, carrying the scent of baked earth and sagebrush and the sweet resinous smell of the sun-warmed grass. It is late afternoon, and the heat of the day has been building for hours, creating a stillness that feels heavy and expectant, as if the land itself is holding its breath, waiting for relief. On the western horizon, you see them, the great towers of the clouds rising up like white marble cathedrals, the anvil-shaped tops flattening against the upper atmosphere. These are the supercells, the giants of the plains, and they move with a slow, majestic grace that commands respect and awe. There is no urgency in their approach, only a steady, inevitable rolling motion that eats up the miles, consuming the blue sky and replacing it with shades of deep slate and bruising purple and a strange ethereal shade of aquamarine green. You watch the weather turn, feeling the drop in temperature as the cool outflow boundary rushes ahead of the storm, sweeping over the grass and causing the blades to ripple in waves like water. The smell of the air changes instantly, shifting from the scent of dry dust to the sharp metallic tang of ozone and the rich promise of moisture. It is the scent of the rain before it falls, a perfume that every pioneer knows and loves, for it means life to the crops and coolness to the skin. You turn and walk toward the cabin, the heavy wooden door standing open to catch the breeze. You step across the threshold and into the dim, cool interior, instantly leaving the vastness of the plains behind for the intimate enclosure of the home. The walls are thick, solid logs that have been hewn by hand, and they offer a sense of permanence and security that is absolute. You close the door behind you, lifting the heavy iron latch and dropping it into place with a solid clunk, a sound that signals the end of the day's work and the beginning of the evening's rest.
Inside the cabin is a sanctuary of sensory delights dominated by the presence of the cast iron stove in the center of the room. The black metal radiates a gentle, consistent heat that dries the dampness from the air and serves as the heart of the home. You can hear the fire crackling softly inside the firebox, a cozy popping sound that speaks of warmth and cooked meals and safety. The room smells of wood smoke and coffee and the faint, comforting scent of rising dough. The family is gathered here, huddled together, not in fear, but in the easy companionship of a shared experience. The light in the room comes from a kerosene lamp on the table, casting a warm amber circle that illuminates the faces of your loved ones and the simple handmade furniture, while the corners of the room remain in soft shadow. Outside, the wind begins to pick up, no longer a breeze, but a strong, steady gale that pushes against the cabin. You can hear it whistling around the corners and sighing through the eaves, a wild and mournful song that makes the stillness inside feel even more precious. The cabin does not shudder, it stands firm, the logs locking together tighter with every gust, a testament to the strength of the shelter. Then comes the rain. It starts as a few heavy drops that smack against the roof like pebbles, but within moments it transforms into a torrential downpour, a waterfall from the heavens that drums against the shingles with a deafening, exhilarating roar. It is the sound of nature washing the world clean, a cacophony of water that drowns out every other worry and thought. You sit in a rocking chair near the stove, the wood creaking rhythmically beneath you, back and forth, syncing with the rhythm of the storm. The thunder rolls across the plains, a sound so deep and low that you feel it in your chest before you hear it with your ears. It is not the sharp crack of a city storm, but a long, continuous rumble that travels for miles, uninterrupted by buildings or hills, a sonic wave that passes over the cabin like a heavy blanket. The lightning flashes through the small square window, illuminating the rain-streaked glass for a split second, revealing the wild tossing of the trees outside before plunging the world back into the cozy darkness. You feel perfectly safe here, a tiny speck of warmth and light in the middle of the great dark prairie, protected by walls of oak and a roof of cedar. The storm creates a cocoon of sound, isolating you from the rest of the world, and in that isolation there is a profound peace. The worries of the harvest and the toil of the journey fade away, leaving only the immediate reality of the dry floor, the warm stove, and the rhythmic drumming of the rain. It is a lullaby sung by the sky specifically for you. You watch the steam rising from a cup of coffee on the table, the vapors dancing in the lamplight, and you feel a heaviness settling into your limbs, a relaxation that starts in your shoulders and flows down to your toes. The violence of the wind outside only serves to emphasize the tranquility inside. This is the pioneer paradox, that the wildest weather brings the deepest rest, because there is nothing you can do but sit and wait and listen. The vastness of the plains, which can feel overwhelming under the bright sun, becomes intimate and close during the storm, as the world shrinks down to the four walls of your cabin. The rain continues to pour, a steady, relentless soaking that will turn the brown earth green and fill the creeks and the wells. It is a benevolent force, a gift of water that ensures survival. The thunder begins to move off, drifting to the east, trailing behind the storm like the caboose of a train, its rumble becoming softer and more distant. The wind dies down, leaving only the vertical fall of the rain, a gentle, steady hush that wraps the house in silence. You close your eyes, listening to the water dripping from the eaves into the rain barrel outside, a melodic plink, plink, plink that marks the time. The air in the cabin cools down, fresh and clean, drawn in through the cracks in the chimney, bringing the smell of the wet prairie indoors. It is the smell of renewal. The fire in the stove burns down to glowing embers, casting a dull red light that is easy on the tired eyes. You pull a heavy quilt around your shoulders, a patchwork of fabrics that tells the story of the family, soft and worn and infinitely comforting. The sensation of the heavy fabric, the warmth of the embers, and the sound of the rain creates a perfect trifecta of sleep. You are safe on the earth, grounded and secure, while the storm sweeps the sky clean. The Great Plains are drinking, and you are resting. The immense scale of the world outside fades away, leaving only the slow, steady beating of your own heart and the fading whisper of the rain. You drift towards sleep, carried by the knowledge that the cabin has held you safe through the storm and will hold you safe through the night. The thunder is just a memory now, a ghost of a sound on the horizon, and the prairie night settles in, vast and dark and peaceful. You are home, you are warm, and you are sleeping deep in the heart of America. We drift away from the vast open spaces of the West and find ourselves settling gently into the rolling green hills of the American countryside, perhaps in the lush valleys of the Shenandoah or the quiet farmlands of the Midwest, where the late 19th century has built its monuments not in stone, but in white painted wood and wraparound porches. We approach a grand old Victorian farmhouse, standing proud and solitary at the end of a long gravel driveway lined with ancient maple trees, their branches heavy with leaves that are beginning to turn upward in anticipation of the water. The house is a masterpiece of carpentry, with intricate gingerbread trim and a wide, welcoming porch that circles the entire structure. But the true treasure of this home, the instrument that will play us to sleep tonight, is the roof. It is not made of slate or cedar shake, but of sheets of corrugated tin, weathered by the seasons to a soft matte gray, a metal canvas stretched tight over the sturdy rafters, waiting for the touch of the rain. There is no sound in the world quite as specific, quite as nostalgic, or quite as deeply hypnotic as rain falling on a tin roof, for it is a sound that touches a primal chord of comfort within the human soul. You are sitting on the deep covered porch, settled into a large wooden rocking chair that has been painted a crisp white, the paint chipping slightly on the arms to reveal the smooth, worn wood beneath. The air is heavy and still, filled with the rich, earthy scent of the garden, where the tomato vines and the marigolds are exhaling their fragrance into the humid afternoon. You can smell the history of the house in the wood of the porch floor, a scent of old pine and varnish, and faintly drifting through the screen door is the warm, comforting aroma of baking bread and the sweet, lingering smoke of a pipe packed with cherry tobacco. These are the smells of home, of safety, of a life lived at a slower pace. The sky above has turned a uniform sheet of pearl gray, low and comforting, erasing the harsh shadows of the sun and bathing the world in a soft, diffuse light that is easy on the eyes. You give a gentle push with your foot, and the rocking chair begins its slow, rhythmic motion back and forth, creaking softly with a sound that is like a slow, steady breath. Creak and hush, creak and hush. And then the symphony begins. It starts with a single drop, a distinct metallic ping that rings out like a tiny bell struck by a velvet hammer, followed by another and then another. Ping, plink, tap. Each drop is a separate note, clear and resonant, sounding bright and cheerful against the metal. You watch the edge of the porch roof where the first droplets begin to race each other down the corrugated channels, gathering speed until they fall from the eaves into the hydrangeas below. The rhythm accelerates, the distinct notes blurring together as the sky opens up in earnest. The sound transforms from a scattered melody into a steady, continuous drumming, a rolling texture of sound that is rich and complex. It is a white noise that is not static, but organic, a living, breathing vibration that seems to massage the very air around you. The rain on the tin roof does not just make a noise, it creates a sanctuary of sound, a sonic wall that blocks out the rest of the world completely. The birds stop singing, the crickets fall silent, even the wind seems to respect the dominance of the rain. There is only this, the steady, hypnotic thrumming of water on metal, a sound that is both intense and incredibly soothing. It creates a sensation of being wrapped in a blanket of sound, of being held inside a drum that is beating a lullaby. You lean your head back against the high wooden slats of the rocking chair and close your eyes, letting the sound wash over you like a physical wave. The acoustic of the tin roof is unique because it captures the entire spectrum of the rain, the high-pitched ticking of the smaller drops, the deep, hollow thud of the heavier water, and the constant underlying hum that binds it all together. It is a drone, a chant, a mantra repeated over and over again by the sky, telling you that you are safe, telling you to let go. The world outside the porch exists only as a gray blur, a watercolor painting running in the wet. But here, under the overhang, you are perfectly dry. You feel the cool mist on your face, the tiny particles of water that bounce off the railing, refreshing and clean. But the heavy rain cannot touch you. This contrast between the wet world and your dry shelter is the essence of cozy. The rocking chair continues its motion, a pendulum swinging through time, carrying you deeper and deeper into relaxation. The sound of the rain on the roof dominates your thoughts, pushing away any worries about tomorrow, any regrets about yesterday, leaving only the immediate sensory pleasure of the now. You focus on the sound, letting it fill your mind completely. It sounds like 1,000 tiny fingers tapping a rhythm of peace. It sounds like a rushing river suspended above your head. It sounds like sleep. The smell of the damp earth rises up, stronger now, mixing with the ozone and the old wood, creating a perfume that is fresh and ancient all at once. You pull a knitted Afghan blanket up over your legs, feeling the weight of the wool adding to the sensation of security. The farmhouse feels solid behind you, a structure that has stood through 1,000 storms just like this one, sheltering generations of dreamers. You are part of that lineage now, a temporary custodian of this peace. The rain intensifies for a moment, a crescendo in the symphony, drumming harder and louder against the tin, deeper and more resonant, and you feel a shiver of delight at the sheer power of it. The noise is loud enough to drown out your own thoughts, loud enough to vibrate in your chest, yet it is soft enough to sleep to.
It is a paradox of sound, a roar that creates silence. You feel your breathing slowing down, instinctively matching the slow cadence of the rocking chair and the steady pour of the rain. In and out, back and forth. The tension in your shoulders melts away, flowing down your arms and out of your fingertips, dissolving into the humid air. The muscles in your face relax, the jaw unclenching, the forehead smoothing out as the hypnotic acoustic takes over. There is no need to do anything, no need to be anywhere else. The rain has canceled the world. The tin roof is singing its song, a song of protection and home. You visualize the rain hitting the metal, sliding down the grooves, falling to the earth, completing the cycle. It is a perfect system, a flawless design. The light on the porch begins to dim as the afternoon wears on, fading into a cozy twilight that blurs the edges of the railing and the trees. The world is closing in, becoming smaller and softer. The sound of the rain seems to deepen, becoming a low rumble, a vibration that you feel as much as you hear. It is the sound of the earth sleeping, the sound of the house settling.
You are drifting now, floating on the sound, carried away by the rhythm. The rocking chair slows down, the movements becoming smaller and smaller until you are almost still, just swaying slightly in the breeze. The smell of the pipe tobacco and the rain and the old wood blends into a single scent of comfort. You are heavy, warm, and safe. The tin roof continues its performance, a tireless musician playing for an audience of one. The individual drops are gone now, replaced by a unified chorus of water, a seamless curtain of sound that wraps you up and tucks you in. You are barely awake, hovering on the threshold of dreams, held there by the mesmerizing pattern of the rain. The symphony of the tin roof is the ultimate lullaby, a song that has been sung on American porches for centuries, a song that says, rest now, the work is done. The rain will fall, the roof will hold, and you will sleep. The drumming becomes a heartbeat, the heartbeat of the home, beating in time with your own. You let go completely, surrendering to the sound, surrendering to the gravity, surrendering to the peace. The rain on the metal is the last thing you hear, a steady, comforting drone that follows you down into the dark and quiet valleys of sleep.
The wheel of the year turns once again, and the warm, driving rains of the summer fade into the mists of memory as we travel north to the rugged and stoic coastline of New England in the depths of a late 19th century winter. Here, the storms do not drum or splash or thunder. Instead, they arrive on the wings of a profound and heavy silence, a silence that swallows the world whole and transforms the landscape into a dream of alabaster and crystal. We find ourselves in a sturdy saltbox house built of timber that has weathered 100 winters, standing firm against the gray Atlantic sky, which hangs low and heavy like a ceiling of wool. The air outside is biting and crisp, carrying the distinct metallic scent of coming snow, a smell that is clean and sharp and promises a transformation of the world. It is a nor'easter that is gathering strength off the coast, a great swirling system of cold energy that will bury the stone walls and the frozen fields under feet of white powder. But inside the house, there is only warmth and the golden glow of the hearth. You are seated in a high-backed wing chair, upholstered in velvet, positioned perfectly before the grand stone fireplace, where a fire of seasoned oak and birch is roaring with a life of its own. The contrast between the freezing world outside and the roasting heat of the fire is the definition of comfort, a physical sensation that seeps into your bones and loosens every knot of tension in your body. The flames dance and leap, licking at the soot-stained bricks, casting flickering orange shadows that play across the wide pine floorboards and the exposed beams of the ceiling. You watch the wood consume itself, turning from brown to black to glowing red embers that pulse with a steady, radiating heat. Outside, the first flakes begin to fall. They do not hit the ground with a sound, but land as softly as feathers, touching the frozen earth with a gentleness that belies the power of the storm. Unlike the rain, which demands attention with its percussion, the snow asks for nothing but silence. It is a hushed event, a secret being whispered between the clouds and the ground. You look out the window through a pane of glass that is beginning to frost at the corners with delicate fern-like patterns of ice, and you see the world disappearing. The familiar shapes of the barn, the fence posts, and the old apple tree are softening their hard edges, blurring and rounding as the snow begins to accumulate. It creates a blanket in the truest sense of the word, a thick, insulating layer that muffles sound and dampens vibration. As the storm intensifies, the wind begins to howl, a low, mournful sound that wraps around the corners of the house. But this only serves to make the interior feel more secure. You are inside the fortress. The walls are thick, the roof is strong, and the fire is bright.
The snow piles up against the foundation, sealing the house against the drafts, creating a feeling of being tucked in by nature itself. The room is filled with the smell of wood smoke, a rich and savory scent that triggers a deep primal memory of safety and gathering. There is another sound in the room, a sound so rhythmic and steady that it becomes the heartbeat of the house, the slow, solemn ticking of the grandfather clock standing tall in the hallway. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The heavy brass pendulum swings back and forth with a mechanical precision that marks the passage of time in a world that seems to have stopped. This rhythmic ticking is hypnotic, a metronome for your resting mind, encouraging your breathing to slow down and synchronize with the slow march of the seconds. The world outside is chaotic with wind and whiteout conditions, but inside, time is measured and calm. You pull a heavy wool blanket up over your legs, the fabric rough and thick and incredibly warm, trapping your body heat and creating a cozy microclimate in your chair. The weight of the blanket is grounding, a physical pressure that signals to your nervous system that you are safe and held. The great white silence deepens as the snow falls faster and heavier, creating a curtain of white that hides the horizon. There is a specific kind of peace that comes with a blizzard, a sense of permission to stop doing and simply be. When the roads are impassable and the world is buried, there is no guilt in resting. There is no nowhere to go and nothing to achieve. The storm has hit the pause button on life, and you are the beneficiary of this sudden stillness. You watch the fire pop and crackle, sending a shower of sparks up the chimney, a miniature display of fireworks that mesmerizes the eyes. The light in the room is dim and amber, coming only from the fire, and perhaps a single oil lamp turned low on the table, its flame steady behind the glass chimney. The shadows in the corners of the room are soft and welcoming, wrapping the space in a twilight embrace. You feel a heaviness in your eyelids, a pleasant drowsiness that comes from the heat of the fire and the hypnotic ticking of the clock. The storm outside is scrubbing the world clean, covering the mud and the gray with a pristine layer of white. It is a new beginning, a blank page waiting for the morning sun. But for now, it is a curtain drawn across the windows of the world. You listen to the wind buffeting the chimney, a distant roaring sound that feels miles away. The snow acts as a soundproofing foam, absorbing the noise of the world, leaving only the intimate sounds of the home. The creak of the floorboards as the house settles into the cold, the hiss of the sap boiling out of the firewood, the steady tick-tock of the clock. These are the sounds of winter comfort.
You sip from a mug of hot cider, the steam warming your face, the taste of apples and cinnamon lingering on your tongue, a taste of the harvest preserved against the cold. The sensation of warmth spreads from your stomach to your fingers and toes, chasing away the last of the chill. You are completely isolated here, cut off from the town and the neighbors by the deepening drifts, but you do not feel lonely. You feel embraced. The house is a ship sailing through a white ocean, carrying you safely through the night. The window panes rattle gently in their frames, a reminder of the forces at work outside, but the glass holds firm. You imagine the flakes piling up inch by inch, foot by foot, transforming the landscape into a soft, undulating sculpture of ice. The silence of the snow seems to penetrate the walls, filling the room with a sense of hush and reverence. It is a holy silence, a quietude that allows the soul to speak. The fire burns down to a bed of glowing coals, shifting and settling with a soft rustling sound that is like a sigh of contentment. You adjust the blanket, pulling it higher around your shoulders, nestling deeper into the wing chair which supports your head and protects you from drafts. The world is asleep, buried under the snow, and you are joining it, drifting into the borderlands of slumber. The ticking of the clock seems to slow down. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The spaces between the seconds stretching out longer and longer. The white noise of the wind becomes a lullaby, a continuous drone that blocks out thought. You are safe in the center of the storm, the eye of the hurricane of snow, where everything is warm and still. The great white silence has wrapped you in its arms, protecting you from the noise and the haste of the world. You are suspended in time, held in the warm glow of the 19th century, where the only technology is fire and wood and wool. The snow will fall all night, silently stacking up, silently changing the world, and you will sleep through it all, warm and dry and deep. The firelight dims to a soft red glow, a nightlight that watches over you. The heavy wool blanket feels like a shield, the chair like a throne. You let go of the day, let go of the cold, let go of the waking world. The silence is absolute now, save for the clock and the wind and the beating of your own heart. You drift down into the soft, white depths of sleep, guided by the peace of the winter storm. The world is white, the room is warm, and you are at peace.
The pages of our history turn again, drifting forward to a time of sepia tones and resilience, settling upon the high plains of the American Midwest during the 1930s, where the land is holding its breath in a long and thirsty silence. We find ourselves in a landscape that has been painted in shades of tan and ochre, where the earth is dry and cracked like old parchment, waiting for a story to be written upon it. The sun has been a relentless companion for months, baking the fields of Oklahoma and the panhandle of Texas, turning the soil into fine powder that drifts against the fences like snow. But tonight, the air feels different. You are standing on the weathered gray porch of a farmhouse that has seen better days, its paint peeled by the wind, its structure leaning slightly with the fatigue of the era, but still standing proud and stubborn against the horizon. The heat of the day is beginning to dissipate, but the ground still radiates a warmth that rises up through the soles of your shoes, a physical reminder of the summer's intensity. For years, the sky has been a miser, hoarding its water, refusing to share with the farmers who watch the clouds with eyes full of desperate hope. They call this the Dust Bowl, a time when the wind blew the soil away. But tonight, the wind carries a different message, a message of salvation and relief. You look out toward the west, and instead of the terrifying, rolling black wall of a dust storm, you see the towering majesty of true rain clouds, cumulonimbus giants that are dark and bruised with moisture. They are the rainmakers, the celestial healers, coming to bind up the wounds of the earth. The atmosphere is thick and heavy, charged with a static electricity that makes the hair on your arms stand up, and there is a stillness that falls over the farm, a hushed reverence, as if nature itself is bowing its head in prayer. The windmill near the barn creaks slowly, its metal vanes turning in the shifting breeze, a lonely sound that emphasizes the solitude of the plains. And then it hits you, the scent that is more precious than gold, the smell of petrichor. It is the distinct and intoxicating aroma of rain falling on dry soil, a chemical reaction that releases the oils from the earth and the stones, creating a perfume of survival. It is a smell that signals life, a smell that brings tears to the eyes of those who have waited so long. The first drops are not a deluge, but a tentative offering, large, heavy splashes that hit the dust with a soft, audible puff. You watch as the dry ground creates tiny craters where the water lands, the earth drinking greedily, absorbing the moisture instantly. The sound is soft at first, a scattered rhythm like a hesitant heartbeat, puck, puck, puck. But slowly, steadily, the rhythm accelerates, merging into a consistent drumming that sweeps across the fields. The relief that washes over you is physical, a loosening of the chest, a lowering of the shoulders, a deep exhalation of breath that you didn't know you were holding. This is not just a storm, it is a miracle. You can imagine the families in the neighboring farms stepping out onto their porches, the children running out into the yard, their faces turned upward to catch the drops, the elders sitting in their chairs with smiles of profound gratitude. The Rainmaker has finally arrived, and he has brought a gift that washes away the dust and the despair. The sound of the rain intensifies, becoming a steady roar that drowns out the creaking windmill and the dry rustling of the cornstalks. It is a lush, liquid sound, a symphony of water that wraps the house in a cocoon of noise. The temperature drops rapidly, the fever of the day breaking as the cool air from the upper atmosphere descends to the ground. You sit on the porch swing, the chains groaning softly as you rock back and forth, protected by the overhang, watching the world transform. The brown landscape is turning dark and rich, the gray dust turning to black mud, the color of fertility. You can feel the healing power of the water resonating in your own body, washing away the stress and the worry of the hard times. The rain is a promise kept, a reminder that the drought does not last forever, that the hard times eventually yield to the harvest. The smell of the wet earth becomes stronger, filling the air with a richness that is heady and soporific. It is the smell of growth, the smell of the future. The water pours off the roof in solid sheets, filling the rain barrels to overflowing, spilling over the sides in a joyful cascade that splashes into the puddles below. You close your eyes and listen to the chorus of the storm. It is a happy storm, a storm of celebration. The thunder rumbles in the distance, but it is not angry. It is the applause of the heavens. You feel a deep connection to the land, to the soil that supports us all, and you feel its relief as if it were your own. The dry cracks in the earth are closing, the roots of the sleeping grass are drinking, and the cycle of life is beginning again. The farmhouse feels cozier than ever before, the sound of the rain on the roof acting as a barrier against the harshness of the outside world. You wrap a thin quilt around your shoulders, enjoying the sudden coolness of the evening. The air is scrubbed clean of the grit and the dust, leaving it sweet and pure to breathe. You take deep breaths, filling your lungs with the moisture, tasting the rain on your lips. It is the taste of hope. The darkness of the night settles in, but it is not a scary darkness. It is a velvet curtain drawn around a resting world. The storm settles into a steady, soaking rain, the kind of rain that lasts all night, the kind that goes deep into the aquifer. It is a lullaby for the farmers, a lullaby for the crops, a lullaby for you. The desperation of the 30s fades away, replaced by the timeless comfort of a rainy night. You feel the tension draining out of your body, flowing away with the runoff water, leaving you heavy and relaxed. The porch swing moves slowly back and forth, a gentle, hypnotic motion that mimics the falling rain. You are safe, you are sheltered, and the earth is being healed. There is nothing to worry about tonight, for the rain has come and the world is right again. The sound of the water is constant and rhythmic, a white noise that blocks out all other thoughts. You visualize the fields turning green, the flowers blooming, the creeks running full and clear. It is a vision of abundance that soothes the mind. The Dust Bowl is a memory, but the rain is the reality. You drift toward sleep, carried on the current of the storm, feeling the profound satisfaction of a thirst ingrained in the soul finally being quenched. The Rainmaker continues his work, pouring blessings from the sky, and you surrender to the sound, letting it pull you down into a deep and restorative slumber. The night is cool, the bed is warm, and the rain is falling. You are part of this American story, a witness to the resilience of the land and the mercy of the clouds. The sound of the drops hitting the wooden steps of the porch fades into the background of your dreams as you cross the threshold into sleep. The earth breathes a sigh of relief, and so do you, sinking into the soft darkness, dreaming of green fields and living waters. We move forward through the corridors of time, leaving the dust and the fields behind to enter the cozy domestic warmth of the mid-20th century, specifically the late 1940s or perhaps the early 50s, where the world has found a new rhythm and the night is illuminated not just by fire, but by the soft amber glow of electricity. You find yourself in a comfortable living room in a quiet American town where the rain is lashing against the window panes with a fervor that only makes the interior feel more secure, and the heavy velvet drapes are drawn tight against the night. The room is filled with the solid, comforting furniture of the era, overstuffed armchairs upholstered in rough fabric, thick wool carpets that dampen every footstep, and the centerpiece of the room, which is not a television, but a magnificent floor-standing radio. It is a piece of furniture crafted from polished mahogany and walnut, a cathedral of sound that stands against the wall like a shrine to the modern age. Outside, the storm is a chaotic swirl of wind and water, shaking the trees and rattling the gutters. But inside, the air is still and smells of furniture polish and old books, and the faint metallic scent of heating vacuum tubes. You walk over to the radio and turn the heavy Bakelite knob with a satisfying tactile click, a sound that signals the beginning of your evening ritual. You wait for a moment in the silence, watching as the dial light flickers to life, casting a warm, golden semicircle of light that illuminates the numbers of the frequencies. Inside the wooden cabinet, the glass vacuum tubes begin to warm up, glowing with a soft orange luminescence that is mesmerizing to watch, like tiny bottled fires that hold the power of voice and music. A low hum begins to emanate from the woven fabric of the speaker, a sound of pure potential energy, followed by the gentle crackle of static that sounds like dry leaves rustling or a distant waterfall. You settle into the deep embrace of the armchair, pulling a knitted blanket over your lap, and you begin to tune the dial, moving through the invisible landscape of the airwaves. The needle slides past the squeals and pops of the atmospheric interference, which is the sound of the storm itself trying to speak through the radio, until it settles on a clear, steady signal. A voice emerges from the static, rich and resonant and deeply calming, a voice with that distinct transatlantic accent that sounds both authoritative and soothing, a voice that belongs to a time when speaking was an art form. It is the weatherman reading the late-night forecast, not with urgency or alarm, but with a steady, rhythmic cadence that transforms the data of the storm into a lullaby. He speaks of low-pressure systems moving across the Great Lakes, of barometric pressure falling steady, of visibility reducing to near zero along the eastern seaboard.
There is something profoundly comforting about hearing the storm described in such scientific and measured tones, for it takes the wildness of the weather and contains it within the structure of language. You listen to the reports of gale warnings for the shipping lanes, hearing the names of distant coastal towns and harbors, places you may never visit, but which feel connected to you now by the invisible threads of the radio waves. You realize that you are not the only one listening to this voice, that all across the country, in farmhouses and city apartments and lonely cabins, people are sitting by their radios just like you, illuminated by the same amber glow, listening to the same rain and the same voice. It creates a web of connection, a shared experience of the night that banishes loneliness. The static rises and falls in waves, acting as a backdrop to the announcer's voice, a white noise that mimics the sound of the ocean or the wind. It is a sonic texture that is perfect for sleep, a screen of sound that blocks out the ticking of the clock and the creaking of the house. You watch the magic eye tube on the radio face, a green glowing circle that widens and narrows with the strength of the signal, appearing like a mystical eye watching over you in the dark. The warmth from the radio tube seems to radiate into the room, mixing with the warmth of the central heating, creating a cozy, heavy atmosphere that presses gently against your eyelids. The weatherman continues his recitation, listing temperatures and wind speeds, his voice acting as a drone that anchors your mind, preventing it from wandering to the worries of tomorrow. You are safe here in the golden age of radio, where the world is brought into your living room through the magic of the air. The rain beats a steady rhythm against the glass, a percussion instrument accompanying the melody of the voice. You imagine the radio waves traveling through the dark, wet night, piercing through the clouds and the rain, traveling at the speed of light to reach your home, to reach your ears. It is a miracle of physics that feels like magic. The smell of the hot dust from the radio tubes is nostalgic and comforting, a scent that belongs to a slower time. You let your head rest against the back of the chair, feeling the roughness of the upholstery against your cheek. The weatherman continues his recitation, listing temperatures and wind speeds, his voice acting as a drone that anchors your mind, preventing it from wandering to the worries of tomorrow. You are safe here in the golden age of radio, where the world is brought into your living room through the magic of the air. The rain beats a steady rhythm against the glass, a percussion instrument accompanying the melody of the voice. You imagine the radio waves traveling through the dark, wet night, piercing through the clouds and the rain, traveling at the speed of light to reach your home, to reach your ears. It is a miracle of physics that feels like magic. The smell of the hot dust from the radio tubes is nostalgic and comforting, a scent that belongs to a slower time. You let your head rest against the back of the chair, feeling the roughness of the upholstery against your cheek.
The signal fades slightly for a moment, drifting into static before returning clear and strong, a gentle swaying motion that rocks your mind back and forth. You feel the heaviness of sleep pulling at you, a pleasant gravity that sinks you deeper into the cushions. The voice on the radio is talking about a clearing trend by morning, about the sun breaking through the clouds, but that is a story for tomorrow. For tonight, there is only the storm and the voice and the static. You feel a sense of profound safety, knowing that civilization is still out there, that there are people watching the skies and keeping watch while you rest. The radio is a lighthouse in the dark room, its dial a beacon of warmth. The storm outside feels distant now, separated from you by walls and glass and the curtain of sound from the speaker. You are drifting on the waves of the broadcast, floating on the frequency of sleep. The announcer's voice begins to blur, the words losing their meaning and becoming just sound, just a soothing vibration that resonates in your chest. You are part of the great audience of sleepers, united by the storm and the radio. The static sounds like rain, the rain sounds like static, and they merge into a single blanket of sound that covers you completely. You are warm, you are dry, and you are connected.
The vacuum tubes continue to glow, their steady orange light, a promise that the connection will hold through the night. You let go of the need to listen closely, let go of the need to understand, and simply let the sound wash over you. The era of radio is a gentle time, a time of listening and imagining and resting. The storm rages on, but it cannot touch you. It is merely a story being told to you by a calm voice in a warm room. You drift deeper and deeper into the static, into the silence behind the noise, into the deep and restorative sleep of the just. The radio hums on, a faithful companion in the night, guiding you safely to the shores of dreams. We leave the crisp cold of the north and the dry dust of the plains drifting southward now, following the winding path of the great Mississippi River, until the land dissolves into the water and we find ourselves deep in the verdant, humid embrace of the American South. The air here is different, thick and heavy like a warm blanket draped over your shoulders, carrying the rich, sweet scent of jasmine and damp earth and the salty tang of the nearby Gulf. We are in the heart of the bayou, perhaps on the outskirts of New Orleans or deep in the Florida Everglades, where the distinction between the earth and the water is blurred, and the world is painted in 1,000 shades of deep, lush green. It is late evening, and the heat of the day has not lifted, but rather settled into a sultry stillness that slows the pulse and makes every movement feel like swimming through warm honey. You are resting on a screened-in porch, a lanai that extends out over the water, where the cypress trees stand knee-deep in the bayou, their branches draped in long, ghostly curtains of Spanish moss that sway gently in the heavy air. The storm that approaches here is not a cold front, but a tropical wave, a massive engine of heat and moisture that rises up from the warm ocean. The clouds are low and swollen, moving with a languid grace that matches the pace of life in the south. You can feel the pressure dropping, a heaviness in the air that presses against your skin, and the insects, the cicadas and the katydids, amplify their buzzing chorus, raising their voices in a frantic crescendo before falling suddenly silent. That silence is the signal. A single drop of rain falls fat and warm, hitting a broad palm frond just outside the screen with a loud, wet slap. Then another and another. The sound of rain in the tropics is distinct. It is deeper and louder because the drops are massive and the foliage is thick. When the sky opens up, it is not a drizzle but a deluge, a vertical wall of warm water that crashes down onto the roof and the trees, creating a roar that is all-encompassing. You lie back on a wicker daybed piled high with soft cotton cushions, feeling the humidity wrap around you, not in an uncomfortable way, but in a way that softens your skin and relaxes your muscles. The screen door rattles gently in its frame, a soft metallic vibration caused by the wind pushing against the mesh, a sound that is as familiar as the crickets. The rain hitting the metal roof above is a deafening rumble, a white noise so intense that it obliterates all other sounds, creating a cone of silence around you where thought is impossible and only feeling remains. You watch the water pouring off the eaves and solid curtains, shimmering like silver in the dim light of the lantern hanging from the ceiling fan. The fan spins slowly overhead, stirring the thick air, causing the shadows of the blades to circle lazily on the floorboards. Round and round and round, a hypnotic motion that draws your eyes and lulls your mind. The smell of the storm is intoxicating, a mixture of crushed green leaves, ozone, and the muddy, ancient scent of the swamp. It is a smell of fertility, of life exploding in the wet heat. You feel a profound lethargy, a heaviness in your limbs that is specific to a tropical storm. The barometric pressure combined with the warmth creates a natural sedative that pulls you down into the mattress. The lightning here is not sharp and jagged, but often sheet lightning, illuminating the inside of the clouds with a soft, diffused glow that turns the night sky into a pulsing lantern of purple and orange. The thunder rolls across the flat landscape for miles, a low, guttural growl that vibrates the floorboards beneath you. It feels like the earth itself is purring. The palm fronds outside dance under the weight of the water, bowing and swaying their glossy surfaces, slick and shining. The Spanish moss drinks the rain, turning from gray to a deep verdant green, acting as a sponge that softens the sound of the storm. You are safe behind the mesh of the screen, separated from the mosquitoes and the wet, but completely immersed in the sensory experience of the night. The storm brings a slight relief from the heat, a cooling breeze that drifts through the screen and washes over your face, carrying the spray of the rain. It feels cleansing and restorative. You close your eyes, listening to the specific texture of the rain on the water below. It is a hissing sound, a seething, constant whisper of millions of drops hitting the surface of the bayou, blending with the deeper thrumming on the roof. It is a tropical lullaby, a song of water and heat that has been sung in these swamps for millions of years. The intensity of the downpour begins to slacken, shifting from a roar to a steady, heavy rhythm. As the rain lightens, the voices of the night begin to return. You hear the deep, resonant croak of a bullfrog from the water's edge, a bass note that punctuates the steady treble of the rain. Then another frog joins in, and then another, creating a rhythmic chorus that is oddly soothing. It is the sound of life continuing, the sound of the ecosystem drinking and rejoicing.
The screen door rattles again, softly, a gentle reminder of the breeze. You feel beads of sweat cooling on your forehead, the fever of the day breaking at last. The wicker of the daybed creaks as you shift your weight, settling deeper into the cushions, finding the perfect spot of comfort. The air is so thick with moisture that you can almost taste it, sweet and clean. The world outside is a blur of rain and green shadows, a watercolor painting that has been left out in the wet. You feel a deep sense of connection to the primal nature of this place, where life is abundant and the storm is just another part of the cycle. The thunder moves off into the distance, becoming a soft muttering on the horizon, leaving only the sound of the rain and the frogs. The lantern light flickers slightly, casting warm, dancing shadows that play across your closed eyelids. You are drifting, floating on the humidity, floating on the sound of the water. The tropical storm is a warm embrace, a heavy blanket of sound that holds you down and keeps you safe. There is no need to move, no need to think, no need to do anything but breathe the heavy, sweet air and listen. The rhythm of the frogs and the rain merges into a single hypnotic pulse. You feel yourself sinking into the warmth, sinking into the south, sinking into sleep. The rain on the palm fronds sounds like applause, soft and wet and constant. The Spanish moss sways like a cradle. The bayou is a dark and secret place, a place of deep rest and ancient dreams. You are part of the swamp tonight, hidden away in the mist and the rain, protected by the screen and the roof. The sound of the water becomes a part of you, a steady flow that washes away all tension, all worry, all time. You are warm and heavy and deeply asleep, held in the arms of the tropical night.
We return now from our long journey through the corridors of time, leaving behind the lighthouses and the log cabins, the sailing ships and the farmhouses, to arrive at the most important destination of all, which is this very moment and this very room where you are lying right now. You are resting in the modern world, a time of unprecedented comfort and engineering, where the storm outside is no longer a threat to your survival, but simply a backdrop for your relaxation. It is worth taking a moment to reflect on the marvel of the structure that surrounds you, for the building you are sleeping in is a triumph of human ingenuity, a fortress of solitude designed specifically to keep the elements at bay while keeping you perfectly comfortable. Consider the window that separates you from the night. In the past, it might have been a thin sheet of glass rattling in a wooden frame, letting in the drafts and the noise, but today it is a masterpiece of technology. It is likely double or even triple paned, a sandwich of tempered glass with an insulating layer of argon gas sealed tightly between the sheets. This invisible barrier acts as a shield, stopping the transfer of heat and cold dead in its tracks, ensuring that the temperature on your side of the glass remains exactly where you want it to be. You can look out at the wind whipping the trees or the rain lashing against the siding, and yet you feel nothing but the stillness of the room. The glass is thick and strong, capable of withstanding winds that would have terrified our ancestors. It transforms the roar of the storm into a muffled and distant hum, a gentle white noise that is perfect for sleeping. The sound of the wind is stripped of its sharp edges, leaving only a low, soothing vibration that resonates with a deep sense of security. You are separated by the chaos, by layers of science and safety. Think of the walls that surround you. They are not merely wood or brick, they are complex systems of protection. Beneath the paint and the drywall, there are sturdy studs of timber or steel, spaced with mathematical precision, creating a skeleton that is rigid and unyielding. Between these studs lies thick blankets of insulation, spun from fiberglass or foam, materials that are designed to trap warmth like a down jacket wraps around a body. This insulation creates a thermal envelope, a cozy bubble that isolates you from the falling mercury outside. The cold tries to enter, but it is stopped inches from your sanctuary, leaving you to enjoy the warmth of your blankets without a single shiver. You can feel the stability of the floor beneath the bed, a solid platform that does not sway or creak. Deep below the house, there is a foundation of poured concrete, reinforced with steel rebar, rooted deep into the earth. It anchors the house to the ground with a strength that is difficult to comprehend, a mass of stone and metal that says to the wind, "You shall not move me." Knowing this, knowing the sheer structural integrity of the place where you sleep, allows your nervous system to stand down. There is no need for you to be vigilant. There is no need for you to listen for danger, for the house is doing the work for you. The roof above your head is an engineering marvel of trusses and beams designed to distribute the weight of snow and water effortlessly, transferring the load down to the walls and the foundation. The shingles are overlapped and sealed, creating a waterproof skin that sheds the rain instantly, guiding it into gutters and downspouts, carrying it away from the home. It is a perfect system, a machine for living that operates silently and efficiently while you rest. You are the beneficiary of centuries of architectural advancement, the recipient of a level of safety that kings and queens of the past could only dream of. The air in your room is conditioned, filtered, and regulated by a thermostat that maintains a perfect climate, regardless of what the weather is doing outside. You can hear the faint, gentle hum of the furnace or the air conditioner, a white noise that signals that the systems are working, that the environment is under control. This is the sound of modern safety, a low, consistent drone that masks the irregularities of the night. You lie in your bed, which is itself a marvel of comfort,
layers of memory foam or coils designed to support your spine, soft sheets woven from cotton or microfiber, and heavy duvets that mimic the feeling of a warm embrace. You are suspended in a cocoon of comfort, protected on all sides by walls, windows, and roof. The storm outside has been reduced to a form of entertainment, a cinematic experience that you can observe from the safety of your private theater. The lightning may flash, but it cannot reach you. The thunder may boom, but it cannot shake you. The wind may howl, but it cannot touch you. You are untouchable. This realization brings a profound sense of relief, a letting go of the primal instincts that kept our ancestors awake. You are free to close your eyes and drift away, knowing that the fortress is secure. The lock on the door is engaged, the windows are sealed, and the alarm system is silent. You are the monarch of this domain, and your rule is absolute. The storm can only sing to you. It can only serenade you with the rhythm of the rain and the melody of the wind. You listen to the rain hitting the glass, and instead of hearing a threat, you hear a lullaby. It sounds like 1,000 tiny fingers tapping a rhythm of peace. It sounds like the world is being washed clean while you stay dry. The contrast is delicious, the feeling of being warm while the world is cold, the feeling of being dry while the world is wet. It is the ultimate luxury. The science of safety has created a sanctuary where you can be completely vulnerable, completely relaxed. Your breathing slows down, matching the steady hum of the house. You feel the weight of the day lifting off your shoulders, replaced by the comforting weight of the blankets. The house is holding you, cradling you in its structure. You visualize the layers of the wall, the brick, the wood, the insulation, the drywall, imagining them as a thick, warm coat wrapped around the room. You visualize the window panes standing guard, transparent shields that let in the light but keep out the storm. You feel a deep gratitude for the roof that shelters you, a gratitude for the engineers and the builders who created this space. The world outside is wild and untamed, but your world is ordered and calm. The darkness of the room is soft and inviting. The shadows are familiar and friendly. You are drifting deeper into the mattress, feeling the tension melting out of your muscles. The science of safety tells you that you are statistically safer right now in your bed than almost anywhere else on Earth. You are in the safest place you can possibly be. The storm is just a song, a natural playlist designed to help you sleep. The wind is a hush, a whisper that says, "Sleep now, sleep now." The rain is a drum, a heartbeat that says, "Safe now, safe now." You let the sounds of the modern home blend with the sounds of the weather, creating a unique harmony of nature and technology. The faint click of the thermostat, the soft rush of air through the vents, the muffled patter of the rain. It is a symphony of security. You are drifting, floating on the knowledge that you are protected. The house is a shell, and you are the pearl inside, safe and hidden and warm. There is nothing to do but rest. There is nothing to check, nothing to worry about. The walls are strong, the glass is thick, the foundation is deep. You are safe. The science of safety has proven it, and your body believes it. You sink down into the deep, soft darkness of sleep, carried by the certainty that you are held securely in the arms of the modern world. The storm passes over you like a shadow, leaving no mark, only the memory of a peaceful night. You are asleep, safe and sound in your fortress of dreams.
And now, as the night deepens and the hours stretch out toward the silence of the early morning, the great storm that has kept us company begins to loosen its grip on the world, drifting slowly away to the east, leaving behind a sense of profound and absolute peace. The energy of the atmosphere, which was once so charged and electric, has softened, settling down into a gentle rhythm of restoration and rest. You can hear the change in the song of the rain, for it is no longer the heavy rhythmic drumming that commanded your attention, but has transitioned into a soft and delicate drizzle, a fine mist that kisses the glass with a tenderness that is almost silent. The torrential downpour has faded into a whisper, a sporadic tapping that sounds like the fingertips of sleep brushing against the window pane. Tap, hush, tap, hush. It is the sound of the aftermath, the sound of the earth cooling down and drinking the last few drops of the storm's gift. The thunder, which once shook the floorboards and rattled the frames, has retreated to the very edge of the horizon, rolling away across the hills and the valleys. It is no longer a roar, but a low, resonant vibration, a soft grumbling sound that feels comforting and familiar, like the purring of a great cat sleeping at the foot of the bed. It is a sound that signals safety, a sound that says the show is over and the night belongs to you. You lie there in the warmth of your bed, listening to the storm fading into history, listening to the silence reclaiming the space between the raindrops. The wind has died down completely, leaving the trees still and heavy with water, their leaves no longer tossing, but hanging motionless in the dark. Outside, the clouds are beginning to break apart, the heavy gray curtain tearing open to reveal the deep indigo vault of the heavens. A single beam of moonlight breaks through the gap, a shaft of pure silver light that spills down from the cosmos and washes over the wet world. You can imagine the light hitting the puddles on the ground, turning them into pools of liquid mercury, reflecting the moon back to the sky. The light creeps into your room, moving slowly across the floor, a pale and ghostly guide that watches over you as you drift. The air has been scrubbed clean by the violence of the storm, every particle of dust and pollen washed away, leaving the atmosphere crystal clear and sweet to breathe. You take a deep, slow breath, filling your lungs with this purified air. Even from within your room, you can sense the freshness, the coolness, the absolute clarity of the night. It is the breath of renewal. Your own breathing has slowed down to match the departing rhythm of the storm, in and out, deep and slow. With every exhalation, you feel a little more weight sinking into the mattress, a little more tension dissolving from your muscles. The storm is letting go, and so are you. You let go of the thoughts that have occupied your mind, letting them float away like the clouds drifting across the moon. You let go of the tension in your jaw, the tightness in your shoulders, the restlessness in your legs. You are becoming heavy, heavier than you have ever been, sinking down into the support of the bed as if gravity has gently increased just for you. The house is silent now, save for the settling creaks of the wood and the faint distant hum of the refrigerator or the heater, the heartbeat of the home. The drama of the weather has passed, leaving a vacuum of stillness that pulls you toward sleep. The drizzle outside is so light now that it is almost a memory, a faint misting sound that is more texture than noise. It is the perfect white noise, the ultimate background for dreams. You feel a wave of relaxation washing over you, starting at the crown of your head and flowing down over your face, smoothing out your brow, relaxing your eyes. Your eyelids feel incredibly heavy, sealed shut by the desire for rest. The relaxation flows down your neck into your chest, slowing your heart rate, calming your pulse until it beats in time with the slow rotation of the earth. The storm has done its work. It has watered the land. It has cleared the air. And now it is moving on,
leaving you safe and dry in its wake. You visualize the storm moving out over the ocean or across the plains, a giant mass of swirling energy that is getting smaller and smaller in your mind's eye until it is just a speck on the horizon, and then it is gone. You are alone in the quiet. The moon is high and bright, watching over the sleeping neighborhood. The streetlights reflect off the wet pavement, creating a world of glistening, quiet beauty. You are safe in your fortress, protected by the walls and the windows and the blankets. There is nothing left to do, there is nothing left to hear. The silence is wrapping around you like a velvet blanket, soft and thick and warm. You drift deeper into the mattress, feeling the boundary between your body and the bed begin to dissolve. You are floating on a sea of calm, floating on the memory of the rain. The distant thunder gives one last soft rumble, a final goodnight whisper that is barely audible, a vibration that you feel more than hear. And then there is silence, the great silence, the silence of the deep night where dreams are born. You are drifting into the calm, sliding down the slope of consciousness into the valley of sleep. It is a beautiful transition, a gentle fading of the light, a gentle quieting of the mind. You are peace, you are stillness, you are rest. The air is cool and clean, the sheets are warm and soft, the pillow is a cloud cradling your head. You sink deeper and deeper, down and down into the comforting darkness. The storm is gone, the peace remains. You are drifting, drifting, drifting. The world is asleep and you are joining it. Sleep comes to you now, easily and naturally, like the tide coming in. It washes over you, covering you in a blanket of rest. You are safe, you are loved, you are asleep. The final drop of rain falls, and then silence, absolute and eternal. Good night.